Hi, I'm Matt and welcome to my latest tech news video. I'll be covering recent tech news in this video. These news videos will generally cover gaming related tech, but also tech and hardware in general. I'm grateful for any feedback, so if you feel the need to do so, please go ahead. Now I'll get into some recent tech news. So the first bit of news is regarding new AMD GPUs. So it is looking as though new AMD graphics cards in the 7000 series RDNA 3E family will be releasing this quarter, so sometime before September 30th, I believe that is. So the rumored graphics cards will be the RX 7800 XT and RX 7700 XT. These cards will likely have 16 gigabytes and 12 gigabytes of VRAM respectively, and slot in below the two RX 7900 cards performance-wise. An announcement is expected at the end of August, with a release date of sometime in early September. Pricing-wise, it's probably going to be around $400 to $500 for the 7700 XT and $550 to $650 for the 7800 XT, which I guess isn't too bad when compared to Nvidia, given the 7700 XT should outperform the 4060 Ti, and the 7800 XT should outperform by a fair bit the 4070. Although you never know, so it's probably best to not get too hyped for decent pricing, or for that matter, performance, as cards from both sides this generation have been a bit too pricey, so far anyway. It looks like generally previous gen Nvidia and AMD GPUs are still offering the best priced performance if you can still get them new, which there are still quite a few around. But yeah, if you want a current gen, mid range, or high end graphics card, maybe wait until these rumored ones come out, as they are potentially less than 2 months away. If priced right, these could be great cards to get, and hopefully they perform well. But definitely wait for reviews from like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Box or other tech YouTubers before considering buying any new graphics cards. There are some performance leaks, I think, of these cards, or something similar, maybe just the non-XT versions, but apparently they're not concrete, so I won't be covering them today. I'll definitely be looking forward to how these perform, though, as AMD's latest RX 7600 wasn't that great performance-wise. Let's just hope these cards have a much better, bang for your buck, so to speak. If you're looking at the RX 7600 to buy, you may as well check out last gen 6700 or 6700 XTs, as they perform better and have more VRAM at a similar or slightly higher price. I certainly don't plan to get one of these cards, but I'm still intrigued by their performance and whether they may have hopefully a knock-on effect on the higher up Nvidia and AMD GPUs that are currently available. So yeah, I'll definitely cover these possible cards when the information is revealed, hopefully sometime soon, so maybe the end of August. So up next, some more AMD news, or the next couple are AMD. So the next generation of AMD APUs are planned for release next year, so 2024. These are AMD Ryzen 8000 Strix Point codename APUs, I believe. So these will have Zen 5 cores and RDNA 3.5i GPUs, which will more than likely give a decent bump to mobile processing performance. Recent leaks are pointing to these Ryzen 8000 mobile APUs having 12 cores and 24 threads, which is an increase when compared to the previous AMD APUs codename Phoenix Point, which at the high end had 8 cores. These will be great for gaming laptops and handhelds should they be implemented into those too, which they likely will, I would have thought. I'm certainly excited to see these make their way into mini PCs as well. So some interesting mini PCs could probably be made with these that can be used as little gaming media emulation or like workstation boxes. Current mobile APUs like the Radeon 680M and 780M are also pretty powerful if you're looking for like a small form factor mini PC with those iGPUs built in. There are quite a few companies which do them, like Minis Forum and B-Link, among others, I believe. But yeah, check reviews on those if you're interested. And any more info, I'll probably cover these because I am quite interested in these mobile APUs. They can be quite good in like small form factor builds and laptops, and potentially future handhelds. Yeah, so next, another bit of AMD news. So AMD's vice president has said that they will not be going down the same route as Intel by implementing a similar hybrid CPU architecture with P cores and E cores. So the hybrid approach Intel has been taking ever since the release of its 12th gen CPUs is to have performance cores and efficiency cores together. Although not all their CPUs have this in the 12th or 13th gen lineups. But yeah, the sort of higher end ones do, mid and higher end ones. So for example, the high end i9 13900K has 24 cores, which are split up into 8 performance cores and 16 efficient cores, while the i3 13100F has 4 cores, with all of them being performance cores. My guess is that in the future, Intel will end up with these hybrid core configurations implemented into all of its CPUs. But it looks like that might be a couple generations away potentially. Although you never know. But I did think I had heard in the past that AMD were considering going the same route as Intel eventually anyway. But I guess these recent comments suggest that AMD is going to stick with the traditional core configuration approach for now. But they could still end up implementing their own like hybrid core approach. But it looks like this confirms it won't be in the near term anyway. Some more CPU news, but Intel this time. So some more Intel 14th gen Raptor Lake desktop CPU news. Specifications for these upcoming 14th gen CPUs have been leaked. CPUs for which the specs have been leaked are the i5 14600K, the i7 14700K, and the i9 14900K. So apparently the 14th gen Intel CPUs have a similar architecture to the 13th gen ones, but will implement some notable optimizations, including increased clock speeds and among other things. So the 14900K will feature 8 P cores and 16 E cores with base and boost clocks of 3.2 GHz and 6 GHz respectively, and will have 36 megabytes of Intel Smart Cache. The 14700K will have again 8 P cores, but with 12 E cores and with base and boost clocks of 3.4 GHz and 5.6 GHz respectively, and will feature 33 megabytes of Intel Smart Cache. Finally, the 14600K will have a 6P core configuration and 8 E cores with base and boost clocks of 3.5 and 5.3 GHz respectively, and will have 24 megabytes of Intel Smart Cache. So that's this. I think we're quite soon until it's a couple months away. I think I mentioned that in the last video from Intel's 14th gen, but these seem a bit more concrete now. So looks like this might be the final sort of specs, but they could change still in between now and then. But yeah, it's pretty close to release, I guess. So if it does, I wouldn't imagine it'd be much different to those specs. But this information was leaked by the site Benchlife, I believe. That's what the article said. And if correct, will enable these CPUs to gain a bump in performance, as is generally expected, over their 14th gen predecessors. But we'll have to wait and see how the reviews are, see how they perform in real world applications. And I'll definitely be covering upcoming Intel 14th gen CPUs more as the information is released. But it could be the last bit we talk about covering them and before the release. But I don't know. Just have to see. Maybe they'll reveal some of the lower end lineups and the non-K SKUs. But yeah, we'll cover that as it comes out. So up next is another bunch of Starfield system requirements. So this time released by AMD themselves, actually. So as covered in a previous video, Bethesda has partnered with AMD for their upcoming game Starfield. I covered some general requirements in I think it was my first tech news video, but now AMD has come out with their own recommended PC specs for Starfield. I will break down AMD's given specs now. So for the 1080p heroic experience, they recommend a Ryzen 5 7600 CPU paired with a Radeon RX 7600 GPU. For the 1440p epic experience, they recommend a Ryzen 7 7700X CPU paired with a RX 6800 series GPU, so a 6800 or 6800 XT GPU. Finally, for the 4K or legendary experience, AMD recommends a Ryzen 7 7800 X3D CPU paired with a Radeon RX 7900 XT. So these specs aren't too dissimilar to the specs I covered previously, but as expected, coming from AMD, they do only detail their own hardware, which is understandable. Um, as mentioned in I think it was my latest gaming news video. So that would be the one that came up yesterday. It should be where I covered the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart PC system requirements. PCs are so mosaic that Starfield will likely run on a number of hardware configurations. So I would wait for performance reviews, which should likely come soon enough after release if you have any concerns. I'll probably cover the game's performance on release too, although I will only be benching it with my current PC. So it would be best to check other channels if you want more in-depth performance roundup for PC. And if you want to see how the game performs with an Nvidia GPU or an Intel CPU, then alongside the AMD counterparts we spoke about today, maybe wait for some reviews. But even on release, if you're unsure and you don't want to pay full price for the game, you could just get it on Game Pass for like a month and just see how it runs. You might even be able to get it for the £1 or $1 deal on there. But when it's released, we'll cover it a bit more. But I'm really looking forward to Starfield, so can't wait to see how it plays and check the performance of it because hopefully it will be a good game. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And the next bit of news is some Nvidia news. So this is regarding the new power connector, which I covered in a previous tech news video. So Nvidia and PCI SIG, I think they're called, are replacing the ill-fated 12VH PWR connector on upcoming and some current RTX 40 series graphics cards with a new spec connector, the 12V 2x6 connector, I believe it's called. So this new connector will have improvements to hopefully prevent cards from drawing the full GPU power while not properly connected, which the issues with the 12VH PWR is that some of the terminals or the connections were melting on the GPU on the board and things because of issues with the 12VH PWR power connector. But yeah, as I previously mentioned in another video, some cards, I think notably the RTX 4070, may be getting the new connector, and some may already have actually shipped with it, or at least a variation of it. And it looks like Nvidia has implemented the new 12V 2x6 power connector onto some RTX 4090 Founders Edition graphics cards as well, or again like a variation of it. I'm not sure it's been fully the 12V 2x6 power connector hasn't been fully completed. I don't think last time I checked. These may be variations of it, but not quite the final spec. But at least better than 12 VHPWR connector anyway, as far as I can tell. So yeah, this is definitely a definite step in the right direction. It's just a shame, really, they didn't figure this out sooner and before the release of the 40 series of RTX cards. This if that had happened, then they would have probably saved consumers, at least the ones that had the issues associated with the 12 VHPWR connector. A lot of hassle, but yeah, it's just how it's ended up. So hopefully this new cable will stop any more issues. But yeah, if any more issues do come up, if I notice them, I'll cover that too. And the final bit of, I guess, bigger news is this week. So another week and more RTX 4060 Ti news. Seems to be the case that Nvidia and its partners, as I mentioned before, have decided not to seed any RTX 4060 Ti 16GB graphics cards for review. I covered this in my previous episode. But yeah, it's a bit concerning, but not expected due to the poor reception of the RTX 4060 and 4060 Ti 8GB cards had on their respective releases. And I'll cover a bit of pricing for this card next. So the Asus ROG Strix RTX 4060 Ti 16GB is actually more expensive than some models of the RTX 4070. The Strix model in question is €659, around €60 more expensive than the cheapest RTX 4070 models in Germany. So given that the RTX 4070 is, I think, approximately at the low end, 20% faster, but can be at least 30% faster, I think on average, between 20 and 30% faster, the 4070 is than the 4060 Ti. This sort of pricing from Asus is pretty unjustifiable. I'd say is a bit of a joke. It's way too much. But yeah, I bought my RTX 3080, which is the 10 gig Founders Edition model, for around the same price as the Strix card, the 16GB 4060 Ti. Around two. It was just over 2 years ago. I think I got it. And yeah, full comparison, the 3080 performs similarly to the 4070, but has less VRAM with 10 gigs versus 12 gigs on the 4070, and is less efficient. But even some cheaper models are similar in cost to the RTX 4070. There's like an overlap in pricing, which is just wild to me. Although all I can say is if you are considering the 16GB 4060 Ti or are shopping at the $500 to $600 dollar or pound price point, I would definitely look at other cards than the 16 gig 4060 Ti. Please look into the 4070 instead. Any model, even the cheapest 4070, should easily outperform the most expensive 4060 Ti 16GB models. I will go over a bit of a performance benchmark that was shown for the 16 gig 4060 Ti, which was actually provided by MSI. So on MSI Insider, which is a weekly MSI podcast where they cover MSI's hardware releases, some benchmark data was revealed. And the 16 gigabyte 4060 Ti performed actually weirdly worse than the 8 gig model in 4 of the 6 games tested, although the variation, pretty sure it seemed within the margin of error. These results weren't a shock, as the 16 and 8 gig models share the same core configuration. I'm pretty sure. Only difference, I believe, is being the VRAM size and the slightly higher TDP of 165 watts for the 16 gig model compared to the 8 gig model's 160 watt TDP. So yeah, not the greatest showing for a new graphics card, mainly because it's really bad price to performance. And actually, just as I was about to record the audio for this video, Steve from Hardware Unboxed released a review of the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB. I would go check their video. I'll link it in the description, but I will cover some brief performance findings now from the video. And it looks like the 16GB is slightly faster in 1080p and 4040p, but again, this this is within margin of error, as as I would have expected, given what I mentioned previously. The 16 GB model did do better in The Last of Us Part 1 for PC, though, especially in the 1% lows. With this is also not a surprise in the 1% lows, because this game does seem to crave VRAM. Power consumption, though, is good, though slightly higher than the 8 gig model. And this decent power consumption does seem to be the one positive for this card when considering its cost. But please go check out Hardware Unboxed video. I don't want to cover all their findings here. As always, it's a great video from Hardware Unboxed, and they deserve praise for their detailed testing. Well, that's all the sort of tech news for today, I believe. I'll do a bit of upcoming tech and some quick tech deal stuff, but new and upcoming tech wise, nothing really notable, I think. Nothing too notable this week other than what I've already covered news wise for the RTX 4060 Ti. So yeah, nothing too much on that front. Move on to the tech deals. So these are any sort of good tech deals I noticed maybe this week. So similarly to last week, there are still some good deals actually on NVMe SSDs and hard drives, but not much new there. Maybe check my last tech news videos deal sections if you want more information on those sort of storage deals. There are slight price reductions on some RTX 4070 Ti cards. So Inno3D's X3 RTX 4070 Ti and Palex Gaming Pro graphic card. These are currently for sale on Amazon UK for around £760. It didn't seem they're quite as much off on the US Amazon. But yeah, this is the lowest price I've seen for, I think, any RTX 4070 Ti so far, though I'd say it's still not quite low enough for me to consider one. If I was shopping for one anyway. Not saying it's a bad buy, the 4070 Ti, but probably one of the it's probably one of the more reasonably priced Nvidia cards, especially at that lower price. But I would probably wait for it to come down a bit more if you are willing to wait. Especially, I think once the AMD GPUs I spoke about come out, I'd imagine that. Oh, I say I'd imagine. I'd hope there'd be some price drops on the higher end Nvidia cards, but you never know. Just have to see, I suppose. But yeah, maybe wait on that. Just thought I'd add it because it's the lowest price I've seen one if you were looking for one. Next, the RX 7900 XT, which has a slightly better performance than the 4070 Ti, has also dropped a bit in price in most regions, actually. So I checked, and there were some for around £740 and $750. And I think the card originally released with an MSRP of $900, so it's come down a bit since release. So yeah, check that card if you're interested. The 7900 XTX has come down a little too, so that's another card to take a look at. I think it started around an MSRP of about $1,000, so I think some of them are sort of around the $900 mark or dropping below. So yeah, check that as well. But actually the 6700 XT is priced pretty good at the moment, and is approaching the £300 and $300 mark. So that's a pretty decent sort of mid-range card if you're shopping at that price point. And yeah, it has come down a decent amount recently. That's most of the, I think, yeah, that's the most tech deals I noticed. Not too much. I will link another Hardware Unboxed video actually covering GPU pricing updates with Tim. These are always great and interesting watch if you're interested in like the GPU pricing space, I guess. But yeah, I'll link that and go check that out. And added a new bit to these videos. I mentioned this in the gaming news one yesterday, which is just a video spotlight section where I highlight like another YouTuber's videos that I found interesting. And it's not, as I spoke in the gaming news episode, the video spotlight, it might not be every week, just if I see something interesting I think people might be interested in. But the one for this week in this tech news video is a Gamer's Nexus video, and it was their review of more threads a GPU, which is actually another sort of which isn't like an up and coming, I guess, GPU company, and yeah, it was quite interesting seeing a GPU from a different manufacturer. I believe they're a Chinese based company, and they sell GPUs. But I think this is one of their first forays into like gaming GPUs, and it's they've all been pretty badly performing though so far. But and even this one is the latest one. It is pretty shocking how badly it can perform sometimes. But other times it doesn't seem too bad. But yeah, Games Nexus got hold of one of them and actually did a full review on it. So yeah, check that out. I'll link that video in the description. And that will be all the tech news coverage from me today. If you're interested, you can also check out my gaming news, which was should be published yesterday. And yeah, as always, feedback is appreciated. So go ahead and like or dislike and leave a comment. If you enjoy my videos and commentary, feel free to subscribe. And thank you for watching, and I'll be back again soon.